Welcome, Chabungbam Babina Devi. We welcome you on this conversation, Zubaan conversation. Um, Thank you for joining us today. Chabungbam
Thank you.
Babina Devi is currently a research scholar at the Center for Science Studies of Social Systems at the Jawaharlal Nehru University in New Delhi. She has been working mainly on the areas of gender and sexuality, sociology of dance, and cultural studies. Her topic of research is on Manipuri classical dance form, Raas Leela. She's also a Manipuri folk and classical performer. She shifts between her life as a dancer and her academic engagement as a researcher and dance ethnographer to join the dots between two seemingly different yet similar worlds. Her areas of interest are gender and sexuality, sociology of dance, cultural studies, and dance ethnography. Thank you once again, Babina, for joining us.
Thank you, Che, for having me. And thank you, Zubaan, for having me.
Babina, you are a critical thinker doing research and taking part in many academic discussions. At the same time, you are also a performing artist. You are associated with the Narmada Cultural Organization, which is a Manipuri dance group based in Delhi. How do you see yourself? Are you an academician first, or a dancer, or is it a blend of both?
Hmm. I think I would like put my academic life first, um, because my relationship with dance is very intimate, yet it's kind of not so conventional because I'm not formally trained in Manipuri dance. But I have been dancing since class nursery. I've been dancing every year since then. But I'm not formally trained. I have not undergone any formal training in Manipuri dance. But luckily, I met my teacher, who is Kumanthim Narmada Devi, who is based in Delhi and who is the founder and also the leader artist of Narmada Cultural Organization. I luckily met her, and through some performances that where I sought help from her, we became very close, and she wanted me to perform with the troupe. So that's when I started performing for Narmada Cultural Organization and also undergoing training under her. So I have been performing with Narmada Cultural Organization since 2014, and it's been 6 years. But more formally and more into Manipuri dance, I am now undergoing training under Srimati Nongthombam Amusana Devi, who is the teacher of my teacher, Narmada, in Manipur. She's based in Manipur since last year. So I don't know, my relationship with dance is quite not conventional, I would say, but I have been performing. That's one. So whenever my dance teachers, whenever they judge my movements and my performance, they would always judge me from a reference that I'm not a trained Manipuri dancer. So that's, sometimes a plus point and also like a minus point that goes. Um, but yeah, since I loved Manipuri dance, even if I'm not trained formally, one thing I'm very sure about myself is that I'm someone who passionately loves Manipuri dance. Like loving the form, loving the dance comes first, and talking about the dance, about what it says or what story it narrates and what kind of religion it brings into the dance form, it comes, later. But my love for Manipuri dance, it comes first, and I think that passion for Manipuri dance is, I think that is something that made me choose my MPhil and also my PhD topic, because I always wanted to stay connected with Manipuri dance, and that's the only dance form that I know, and I feel like whenever I hear the beat or something. So I think that passion is something that made me connected, that kept me connected with the dance. And that's why I chose Jagoi Ras, which is the classical dance form of classical dance form of Manipur, um, to work on for my PhD and MPhil, because that's the only way I could link up the two spaces, because somehow I feel that I inhabit both the space, and um, it's quite different in a way, and and not so different in the other way. that's the only way I could stay connected with both of this. And yeah, I think.
Thank you, Babina, for sharing with us your about who, like it gives us some insight into who you are and what you would like to do. And you were talking about your love for dance from a very young age. Uh, in Manipur, in a lot of the festivals that we have, whether it is the Hindu versions of the festival or the indigenous versions like Lai Harauba, a lot of there are a lot of dance performances. Like young kids are encouraged by by their elders, the family member, to put on a dance performance, and they go for a training for that specific dance performance. Did you, as a child, have any of this experience? Did you take part in Lai Harauba and all this?
Yeah, my first performance was for the festival that we call Imoinu. Imoinu festival is celebrated on a very large scale at our Laikai, Wangkai Ningthempu Krimapal. And now when I look back, it's a very interesting story. Why? Because there are two clubs in our Laikai. One is called Maharaja Garib Niwas Memorial Club, and the club that organizes Imoinu is called League of Kelo Patriots. So in that time, in I think this would be around late 1990s, when there was this politics of religion coming up, and um, um, the revivalist movement becoming even stronger, and all those mixed. I think that was also one reason why two clubs were set up in our Laikai, and there were conflict between the two. So my father happened to belong to Maharaja Garib Niwas Memorial Club, and as we know, Maharaja Garib Niwas is a king in the history of Manipur who adopted Hinduism as a state religion. And so my father was very against me performing for Imoinu. Like, my daughter and I work for this club, and my daughter performing for their club. And that's true for Imoinu and something. So my father didn't come for the performance, and he was very against me performing. But it was my grandmother who took me to the teacher and, asked and requested the teacher to teach me a dance so that I can perform. And whenever I tell story of how I started loving dance or performing Manipuri dance, I always tell that it is only because of my grandmother who took me to the dance teacher and made me perform. But now again, when I look back, I think there could have been some agency on my part. And I think I must have been, I think, stubbornly, nagging her to take me there, because I always mm, the dance classes there, it was going on some houses away from our house. So I think I must have been nagging her quite often and frequently to take me there because I want to. So I think now, it's both because of my grandmother and myself that we went. And so yeah, like I my first performance was for Imoino Festival. My father was stark against it. It happened, and then from since then I have been performing like in schools and in various annual festivals during Holi, and not so much in Lai Harauba, but mostly in my school. And after 12th, when I left Manipur for my higher studies, there I met my teacher and have been performing.
Yes, I'm sure that I'm so happy to learn about your grandmother, because most mothers and not mothers, more grandmothers, no? Not so much mothers, but grandmothers. Their dream is to have their grandchildren performing a dance, and usually it will be Krishna Sabha, in the Ras, their dream is that my child, whether it's a girl or a boy, my grandchild should perform as a Krishna. So that is something which all grandmothers do, and I'm sure that she must have seen something in you that made her, actually take you to the teacher. Uh, uh, while we're discussing this, Manipur has a rich culture of arts and aesthetics that everyone knows. Uh, there are not just one or two dance forms. There are dozens of dance forms, and there are there are a lot of cultures and communities, and each culture and community have their own dance forms. How has this legacy helped you? Has it been a plus or minus for you? This, I call it the burden of legacy.
Um, I think personally, in our school, there used to be the annual functions where Manipuri teachers from dance academy were called for I think 1 month or 2 months to teach dance. I think that somehow introduced me to various dance forms of Manipur. That's where it started. Um, but then again, as I said before, uh, I was I always wanted to go and learn dance at Jawaharlal Nehru Manipur Dance Academy, and my school van would pass through their gate. Since I couldn't go and learn dance there, I would always peek into their gates and always wanted to know what was happening there. Mm, but since I couldn't learn and I couldn't go and learn and do what I wanted, I I didn't miss any chance of watching dance videos that came on television. Like that time, Ice TV was very popular, and I think when I was in class fifth or sixth, that time there was very high popularity of Manipuri dance and like dance as an entertainment. Also, there was Bright Future Manipur, like Bright Future or something organized by ISTV then, and Dawn 2000 and Poknapam Ima, and so many dance events that were held during that time. And I think that was a time when Manipuri dance was very popular among the ordinary members of our society. Um, so I think those many programs that were shown on TV, and plus my excitement and also that passion to like be in that dance community, that always like drew me towards it. And yeah, and it wouldn't have been possible if Manipur was not diverse as it is, because that like whatever programs that were showcased on television and something, it was a mirror of the diversity that Manipur holds. So I think yeah, it it definitely comes from there.
That is really interesting. Like, in your previous answer and now also, you have mentioned how you would want to dance but didn't have the opportunity to dance. I'm sure a lot of us, like including me myself, we would have loved to have learned dance from a very young age, but not many parents, not many people encourage a girl, especially a girl, taking up a dance as a career. So, and I'm sure that the like maybe they have their own reasons, but they would prefer to focus the attention of their kids more on studies than on dance. But how do, if you are going to, if you are to do a gendered analysis of this preference of of this non-preference of dance as a profession, especially for women, like how would you put it? Have you any thoughts about it?
Um, I think it's very it's a very interesting question, and we can look at it from many ways. I mean, now, like for I'm currently doing this project with Zubaan, the Fragrance of Peace project, where I'm writing about women performers of Manipuri dance. Now, and through this project, and also through the training that I'm undergoing right now, I am like getting to know so many female dancers who are also becoming very close friends, and each of them has their own story. Even my teacher, she is like like she has achieved so much in the field of Manipuri dance with awards and so many recognition, but still, she still fights for recognition in her own family and to prove her worth every day. And there's another friend, who always complains that she doesn't get support from her family, but she is the one who is the strongest, and like like the strongest and like um, strongest personality in our whole group. And there's this other female dancer who's like, who has all the support from her family. And that is because she's very young and she's very beautiful, and her parents are very protective about her. So they're like, each person and women dancer that I meet now and also before, they have their own story. And in most of the cases, each of us have to prove our worth as a dancer, like in every case. So, like, even me now, when my parents say that, what are you going to do? Or, like, why are you wasting so much time on dance and dancing and everything? Now, I do have an excuse that whenever they say, I say that, oh, it's my field work and it's my research work that's going on. I have an excuse, not every time, but yeah, I think each dancer, even if they have achieved so much in terms of recognition, in terms of, so many things, I think many of us still struggle to prove our worth and to establish dance as a career.
Thank you, Babina, for being very honest about it. As you said, there are a lot of women dancers and even gurus, like masters who would teach others, but who has had to fight for recognition in their own right and even within their own family, forget the larger community. So that comes me to this complex what contradictions that Manipuri women are in at the moment. On one side, like Manipuri women are known as very strong women. There's the projections that are there. They are very vocal, and they engage in a lot of politics. But how would you feel like what is your experience like women?
I would like to share this incident from 2019 December. There was a dance seminar that was, organized by the Dance Academy here. And I don't know whether like the male dancers would be happy to hear this, but that day I felt very sad. Why? Because there was this senior dancer, and who was also like an ex guru of JNMDA, and she was about to demonstrate how the three pioneers of Manipuri dance differed in their movements, in their philosophies, and in their practice. So she was about to demonstrate with songs and some of her movements, but she wanted to explain how she has had the privilege of learning dance from each gurus and have met all of them. So she was explaining a little bit, but she was interrupted again and again by the male men coordinator, and the person who manages that program, and who is also a dancer, and I think a guru at the same college. That incident really made me sad. Why? Because if we look at Manipuri dance, and if we look in any classroom of Manipuri dance, the number of female dancers are always higher than the number of male dancers. The number of female students are higher than the number of male dancers. And but when it comes to when it comes to a position of speaking something or expressing something, or maybe calling someone as a chief of guest for a dance event or anything related with that, it would be a male. And many a times, and in the course of the project that I'm doing, I've also encountered many like more cases from many female dancers where they experience so many things regarding you know silencing of their voices and their opinions. But what's more important to look here is that many of this suppression and silencing of voice is very subtle, and it's so difficult to point out because it's not so overtly there. And so, in a way, you can say that everything is so subtle here. The dances are so subtle, the expressions are very subtle, and so is the suppression and also the resistance. So, saying something against anyone who tried to silence a voice, that act itself is also very subtle. So, everything lies in that very implicit moments of trying to suppress or trying to resist.
Yeah, I think I really like the word that which you use. Like, everything is very subtle here. The dances are subtle, and at the same time, silencing is subtle, and the resistance is also subtle. Which comes me to another idea, like, and to the next question. Like, a lot of times the way we see ourselves, whether we as women or we as a community, is through the eyes of others. We would refer to studies or reports by people from outside, whether they are anthropologists, historians, or writers who wrote about us, documented us, and we would refer to it as our point of reference for any kind of academic study, or any discussion that we have. Do you think this is because we lack the vision to see ourselves? And how do you resistance this way of seeing this kind of constructed identities and representations, and also this silencing? Even when someone is talking about the dances of Manipur, like, there has been a lot of studies and a lot of documentation. Like, people, whenever someone comes from outside, they will want to see two three things. One would be the women's market, then they will want to see the Manipuri dance, and every cultural item which is showcased by the state government or anyone would have a dance item. But then, how would you see this? Like, whether is this the dance item, or the way we are presenting in our dance, the real persons that we are, or is this another kind, is this a kind of constructed identity that we are working at?
When it comes to Manipuri dance, yes, it obviously occupies a position of a commodity at some level because there are tourism festivals and there are many cultural events that happens, and also any event that has nothing to do with any cultural aspect, it would have a dance item to maybe to attract the audience, or to showcase that we have so much of culture, and we have rich heritage and so on. um, because I'm like thinking about two things here. I mean, like the representation of women as a whole, like Manipuri women as a whole, like as maybe in um, that, and then like again the like commodification of dance and culture at the same time. One thing is that this commodification, it happens at every level, happens in Manipur and outside Manipur as well. Since I have been performing with Narmada Cultural Organization, mostly outside Manipur, I think one of the experience that we always have is that most of the organizers call us because one, they want somebody to represent Manipur and also to represent Northeast as a whole, because they always want some group from some dance from North, some dance group from Northeast, because that would complete their projection of a political correctness. First is that, and second, because they want a cheaper dance group. Because if they call a dance troupe from Manipur, it would cost them more. But if they call somebody who's based in Delhi, it's much more cheaper. So many a times, what happens is they want us to give like a whole package of Northeast in one program. Um, uh, so last year we went to Varanasi for an event, and it we were mistaken to be a group from Arunachal Pradesh. And the day before the event, they came to know that we are from Manipur and we will perform Manipuri dance. But somehow they wanted dance from Arunachal. So the manager, the one who was coordinating the event, he was asking my teacher to perform anything from Arunachal, any dance from like Arunachali dance. Just look up YouTube, like download some songs and then do some movements. It's okay, and the rest you can perform your own dance. And what was he saying? Uh, he said that, and so we said we can't do. And my dance teacher, she was willing to perform. She was like, "No, it's okay, we'll do." So the point I wanted to like make here is that it's a luxury to say no to a to a performance or for a program, because like many dance groups who are based in Delhi and also in Manipur or maybe in other parts of the country or abroad, they they draw or they get their means of livelihood from the events and programs that they go for. So it's a luxury to say no and to be choosy of what kind of programs you want to go for and what kinds of program you want to say no to. So that my dance teacher wanted to say yes, and maybe she was like, maybe we can do something with the costume, buy something like to match the colors and patterns, or somehow we'll see something. We'll download some videos from YouTube, and maybe we can do, because the manager, that event manager, was like constantly asking her to do that. But I talked to him and I said, no, we can't do, because Northeast as a whole, you can't like construct like a homogeneous category, and you can't just, blindly ask us to do that. We cannot risk that. And somehow we uh, did not perform anything from Arunachal and ended up performing our own like dance.
Which brings us to this whole politics of festivals, cultural
Mm,
festivals, which are organized at every level, whether it's state level, northeast level, or regional level, or even the national level, international level also.
mm,
And that's a very sad story which you just told. At the same time, uh, an inspiring story also, because we can learn a lot from it, that we should stand up to such kind of attitude from whosoever it is. Uh, Growing up in Manipur, can you tell us a bit of your childhood, and how it shaped you to the person that you are at the moment?
yeah. Like I said, I my first dance was for Imoinu, and like since then I've been performing in schools, and it was very casual programs. But like we discussed earlier, also my parents are, like the typical middle class household. They would want me to focus more on my studies, and that's where more of my focus went. But now it's only because I wanted to stay connected with the two, that I doing the work and something. But when I was a child, mm, even though I knew a little bit about Manipuri dance and how their movements and how their rhythm works and something, it was not very like commonly known among the even among my generation, and even among the class, even my classmates. And um, now also, if my cousins, my little cousins, they would see like pictures of Ras Leela in their general knowledge textbooks, and they say, oh, what kind of dance is this? Because they know about Lai Harauba, because they see it, and it's very much part of their everyday lives, but not Ras Leela as such now. So somehow I didn't know much about other dances as such. Like I knew, because it was like a general knowledge thing, that there are this many numbers of classical dance forms in India, and some folk dances that always keeps coming up in social sciences textbook or general knowledge textbooks. But apart from that, I didn't really have any knowledge about any dancers or any performers, like or outside Manipur. I also didn't know much about Manipuri dancers then, but um, mm, but at some point when I was doing my graduation, I did my graduation in like sociology, and that time, on Valentine's Day, I remember this because it was like a day that that really changed me also. That day, the campaign for 1 billion rising was happening in our college. And that day, Malika Sarabhai, Kamla Bhasin, and Eve Ensler came to perform and to do their campaign for 1 billion rising in our college. There, Malika Sarabhai performed, Eve Ensler performed her vagina monologue, and Kamla Bhasin also, gave this wonderful speech. And I think from there it drew, like, I somehow drew a lot of inspiration from that performance and that campaign, because that was one moment or first moment in my life where I saw that you can somehow connect your art and whatever you want, and you can always use your art to tell your stories. So now even like, when I perform, it's very hard for me to like, go out or go beyond the traditional dances that we do, because first you need that creative capacity to do that, and second, you need to have a story that you really want to share. So that was one moment when I, realized that you can always combine your art and the stories you want to tell. But unfortunately, like, due to lack of my creativity, or, like that vision to do something like out of the traditional practices, I've not really done much in that line.
As I was saying, one of the first things that we teach our children, even as an infant, is dance, not by going to a teacher or by through formal lessons, but just as we teach them how to speak words, how to eat, like we would teach them, like how to say mother, how to say father. At the same time, we teach them how to do tadhing, and tadhing is like the one of the basic movements of Manipuri dance. So how do you feel that about this interconnection of dance and our lives in Manipur?
Yeah. Um, so can I say about embodied a little bit? Yeah. So we did this. It's an exploratory dialogue, and um, we wanted to bring in different dance forms also in embodied. And one thing that we started embodied with is like with tadding. Like, when our elders taught us tadding and how to do that dance, and how to, turn your wrist and do the movement, and to, bend your head like sideways and all that, they didn't teach us that you're going to tell the story of Krishna, or tell the story of Panthoibi or Lightning Thor. There was no religion involved. There was no politics involved. Like there was pure movement, mm, and that pure joy that elders got out of watching their kids like enact something which is so deeply cultural, and to see their kids getting socialized in a cultural, medium. So tadding is very first thing that I think most of us grew, up, like I would say tadding is a word that signifies very first moment of socializing into our own culture. But now, as we see, tadding now, if we see it again, it's also very gendered. Like, when you teach a girl child about tadding, she's supposed to be uh, very like feminine, and like more uh, uh, more soft and graceful. But if you teach the same tadding to a boy child, we would expect him to jump and be more masculine, like the way we see in like the Khamba Thoibi dance, where Thoibi is supposed to be more soft and graceful, and Khamba is supposed to be more masculine with his broad chest out and something. So I think tadding itself is a very interesting point to start looking at Manipuri dance, and how dancers imagine themselves and try to locate themselves where they are.
That is wonderful. Now, if you could just show how tagging is done, like, for our viewers.
Yeah.
Mm.
So when we said like, okay, when you ask a child to do tading, it would be like very raw, tading ding, we do like raw. But if you want to like upgrade a little bit and teach the kids how to do it, you teach them how to like turn your wrist and like use your wrist and so on. Yeah, Che, I think that's,
Yeah.
yeah.
Usually, tagging starts, like, I mean, I'm speaking as a mother now, I mean, that's I think.
Mm,
Uh, when a child is not even able to speak, it's not able to move on its own,
mm,
it still hasn't been able to sit up or crawl. and it is with the wrist movement. The basic is like we just teach them how to do this,
Hmm.
and this is studying, and whether it's a male or a female, this would be the basic, like, movement. And we'll just like teach them the rhythm and say ta ding ding ta ding ding, and we teach them how to do this until after some time they start learning this on their own. If you look at it, it can be dance, or it can be wrist movement, or it can be some other purpose. It can be some of other purpose. Coming to which, there has been many. I don't know whether there are studies, but there are discussions on how the Manipuri dance form is linked to the martial arts form, traditional martial arts form. And when you talk about Khamba and Thoibi, about Khamba being more robust, jumping up with it when it dances, and Thoibi being more feminine, and her movements being more gentle and subtle. Uh, if you look at the fit work is the same, almost the same. But then the when you talk about the gendered uh, nuances in the dance, and that was very interesting how you pointed out that Thoibi is dancing very softly, gently, and Khamba is dancing more strongly, more robust. Coming to which, you have done a lot of research and analysis on Manipuri dance, especially the Jagoi Ras and the Kambadu Thoibi dance. This were the topic of your MPhil thesis, and also what you're working on right now at JNU. Can you tell us a bit about what you're working on right now?
Um, I look at Jagoi Ras, and initially when I was framing my title, I always used Raas Leela. But one day it suddenly struck me that it makes more sense to use Jagoi Ras because that's how we commonly call it. And also because Jagoi has its own cultural, culturally embedded meaning, which dance cannot really capture. So now I use Jagoi Ras more. So I look at Jagoi Ras both as a cultural and a bodily text. And through this, I try to understand the various socio political, cultural, and also the religious contestations surrounding it. And for my PhD is an extension of my MPhil work. And the MPhil work looked at Jagoi Ras as an embodied culture. And um, so in my PhD, I'm focusing more on doing the dance ethnography, where uh, I use beyond the method of observation and interviews by taking part in the dance training myself and experiencing the field through my body. So what goes on during the training and the moments shared during the training session and conversation shared between the friends and colleagues and so on. So this is what I focus on for now. Um, yeah.
This is a very new term for me, and a very interesting term which you
Mm,
use, dance ethnography. So
mm,
is this a very new methodology, or has there been people working on it before?
mm. There are, it's a very recent thing, but not so recent, but many people have been working on it. Many dance scholars, they now focus that the thinkers of dance and doers of dance, it should merge. And it gives a totally different perspective when the doers and thinkers of dance comes together. And this term and this methodology was introduced to me by Iche Rekha Konsam. She worked on Lai Harauba, and she's been working like very amazingly with um, JNMDA. She used to do very rigorous field work and so on. I met her during my MPhil, and and she said, "Why don't you use dance ethnography? Because you are a dancer yourself, and you know a little bit about dance, and you can do the dance and be a part of it. And this might give you a new perspective." So that's how I got introduced to dance ethnography. And now I think I'm loving it.
That is great to hear. You have done your uh, graduation from the Delhi University. You did your master's here, and you have also been doing research there. For a lot of us who moved out of Manipur, work, and travel to other parts of the world, for a lot of us, the distance away from our homeland is also an opportunity to look at it with new eyes and new understanding. How did the distance from homeland make you feel?
Mm. Um, I think I'll share this story. I did my schooling in Kendriya Vidyalaya, and as we know, Kendriya Vidyalaya is like the nationalist kind of school system. And there we always sung national anthem and so many Hindi like patriotic songs. And when I was in Manipur, I didn't like know properly about the connection and the political strains that Manipur have with India. The idea of self and the other, the outside and the inside, and all the political contestations that are there. But when I, went and did my doing my graduation and met so many seniors who were already so active um, in Delhi, I think that also changed a lot of things that I used to like think. And I remember in my first year college in on Independence Day, there were some of my friends from Manipur, and we were attending the Independence Day in Miranda House. And there, me and my friends, we were all standing together, and people were singing national anthem. And I was like among one of like only two people who could sing national anthem properly, and I felt so proud that I could sing national anthem so properly. That's that's one thing that I was groomed in Manipur. And slowly in Delhi, it gave a very different idea now. And I wouldn't be so much proud of being able to sing an anthem now as compared to that day. Like, you know. And also, I think most of these change in my like perception and everything, like most of it also came from dance because after performing with Oja Narmada, we we were called for many programs that we didn't feel welcome at all. And many a times we just felt that we were being used, like I said, for some kind of political correctness. And many a times we faced so many things that, like, ooh, I don't know, sometimes it's a bit condescending on their, I don't know, like, there were so many feelings inside and we didn't feel welcome at all at many points. And many a times, like I said, we felt that we were being used to project something and to prove something that our ideology is all encompassing and inclusive. So,
Yes, it does take some time away from home to really understand the meaning of home and the meaning of like non-home. Coming into another aspect of your experiences, can you tell us a bit about your association with Zubaan, especially, and then your experience with the Cultures of Peace program?
mm. um, as far as my association with Zubaan is concerned, I performed for Cultures of Peace in 2018 at Ahmedabad, along with Professor Dolly Kikon, Rosemary Kikon, Lapyang CM, and Ruli Fukon. We four performed in 2018, and I think okay. And my second association with Zubaan is for the Fragrance of Peace project that I'm currently doing, where I'm looking at stories of women performers of Manipuri dance and trying to somehow look at a different narrative on Manipuri dance where it shifts from discussions on dance to stories about the dancing bodies that is the female dancers. But actually, the conception of the project that I'm doing now started when I performed for Cultures of Peace in 2018 because that time I wanted to do something more creative, something which is beyond the traditional dances that I would normally do. But I couldn't like come up with anything, I couldn't like create a new performance or a craft, something new. I ended up performing two pure Manipuri classical solo dance. One is Nila Kamala and one is Dasavtar. Dasavtar is more energetic and more fast, rhythm and something. That I did because I thought like, the audience would want more like energetic and more fast dances. But the other dance that I did was Nila Kamala, which is Nila Kamala is one of the first Manipuri classical solo dance composed by Guru Amobi, late Guru Amobi Singh. And Nila Kamala, the dance Nila Kamala is very slow. And the time, and I think mostly also because of conversation that I shared with Professor Dolly, Ruli, and Lapdyang and Rose, it also somehow made me realize that you can still do what you know, what you like, with what you love. But what's more important is to bring in different perspective and different interpretations of the work that you are doing. So even if I dance, like even if my dance says that how good Krishna looks and how beautiful he looks, it does not mean that I'm a fan of Krishna and I believe in all that religious worldview and something. So the conception of the project that I'm doing now also started in 2018, and the lesson that I've learned so far in these years is also to keep practicing what I do, but more importantly, bring out more interpretation and more perspective on the very same thing.
Thank you, Babina. Can you tell us, elaborate a bit on your work with Dolly, Rosemary, and Labjiang during the cultures? So what was the performance about, and how was it appreciated?
Um, the performance, I would say, it was like two parts. I mean, Dolly, ma'am, Rose, and Labdyang, they did a theater piece like together, three of them together. And Ruli and I performed differently individually. Ruli performed Bihu. She's a Bihu performer. So she did two kinds of Bihu. And I did two solo Manipuri classical dance. But we were asked to bring our own interpretations and our own stories about it. So, uh, one thing I focused at was why I chose Nila Kamala mainly, why I chose a dance, and and what I wanted to highlight more apart from the dance was that uh, was that the performers and also like the dancers, we do not need to change our pace, or we do not need to change what we do to please, and to please us, to please certain kind of audience, or to suit their interest, because Nilikamla is very slow and most of the Manipuri dances are very slow, very repetitive. And it's a very regular comment that it's very boring to watch Manipuri dance because it's repetitive, slow, the music is like slow and it goes on. But we do not need to change that. We do not need to keep competing with other forms to suit the interest of certain kind of audience. I think that was one thing that I really wanted to like highlight through a performance in Cultures of Peace.
Thank you, Babina. Can you tell us a bit about your association and collaboration with Surjit Nomikapam? Can you tell us a bit about who Surjit, starting with who Surjit is, so that for our audiences also?
Mm. Um, Surjit Surjit Nomaikapam was like a teacher in our school. Like he came for a short term like class. because in our school there was annual social science exhibition where each school was given like a state and a country to perform, like, in that time I think it was Greece or something, that we had to perform a dance uh, from Greece. And I think he's a contemporary dancer, so the school authority called him to teach the dance. Somehow I didn't take part in that dance, but from that time I knew him and some of his works that came after it. Then when I was in college, I think I saw Nerves, and other some of his work. So I always wanted to work with him and try more with the movements that I know, to tell stories other than the Krishna and Radha and stories that we usually tell in Manipuri dance. So the desire to experiment something was always there. So luckily, I met him during one of his performances in Delhi last year, and we wanted to combine the two forms and see how it could, come together. So for the first time, we did a performance together in Jaipur in January 2020. That time, Embodied was not very much in like proper shape, but that that time we did a performance where um we performed on the extreme ends of the room. So Surjit performed on the other end, and I performed here, and the audience was seated in between. The audience was supposed to shift from this performance and to this one, like one after the other. And the feedbacks that we got from the audience that day, it really made us, um, like it encouraged us more to do something which can be a collaborative work between two practitioners of two different dance forms and bring that together and see how it goes. So, so we did Embodied in Drift. This is Dharamshala Residential International Festival for Theatre in March 2020. And it's still a work in progress. And we were given like 7 days or something to work with Embodied. So Embodied itself is, the word itself is taken from my MPhil dissertation, where we tried to somehow translate what I have written and what my story about my dance and my passion about dance into a performance. Its title is Embodied Culture and Its Contestations. So we wanted to say how the movements are so embodied in the body of the dancers and also myself. And like we discussed earlier, that we ended our performance with something with the Tading, you know, how the movements are so embodied within us. And when we, you know, uh, when that love for that dance form came for the first time, it did not mean anything about religion. It didn't mean anything about, culture and politics and all of that, but it's so embodied. And if we look at the transition of the Vaishnavite and also the pre-Vaishnavite dance forms, it's the same dance movements that we do. The feet movements are very similar. It's drawn from one another. You cannot clearly divide the dance forms and say, oh, this is this and this is this. But it's too interconnected. It's all linked. It's drawn from one together. And it's that movement which is embodied in us. So yeah, embodied came in that way. It's still a work in progress, and we are looking into more research and more original tracks and all of that.
Yeah, thank you. We really look forward to watching Embodied, and it is really, when you feel that, yes, it is ready to be
Yeah.
shown to all of us. Now, you are also showing you are giving a short performance for Zubaan. Can you tell us the title of this performance, what it is about, the process of creating the performance, what it means to you, the inspiration behind it, and why did you choose this particular piece?
Um, Initially, the performance, I think I was thinking that I would do something that I'm learning recently from my teacher, and this dance is about uh, that pain of loss and that separation that a mother feels. So Yasoda, who is the mother of Krishna, she remembers Krishna when he's gone, and she's trying to remember how he used to dance so beautifully and so on. And the dance is taught by my teacher. She is a mother herself and an old a woman. But the people who are learning the dance from her now are one is a male dancer, and other two, like me and my other friend, is like all unmarried who have not undergone that feeling of being a mother and that sense of motherhood. I wanted to do this and like bring in all those feelings that we felt during the training and something. But um, but now I think the performance we are thinking of doing um, something which you know I think focusing more on the feelings that I felt all throughout during uh, the 3 4 months while I was doing the project, the Zubaan project that I'm doing now. Because many a times when I go and talk to a participant, talk to a co-dancer and talk about their stories, many a times it's very overwhelming and you know, like many a times we end up crying together and you know there are so many feelings inside and so many things, it's still so much inside you, and you know, and it's very hard to put it into words. I was telling this story to one of my research friend and how I was feeling, and there were so many things, and he was saying, no, that's so beautiful, this is how we theorize, and these are the lines you can use, and this is kind of thing that we do. He was so clear and like framed it so beautifully for me. But somehow I also liked how feelings were so chaotic inside. So the performance, I think, you know, it would be about all this chaos and feelings that I'm feeling right now, and an urge to like put it out into words, but an inability to do so. I think that would be the performance. Yeah.
What did you say was the title of the performance?
No, I have not titled it. No. We are
You
still
is
thinking.
yeah, you're still thinking of the title. Then we really look forward to that, and then we are also very hopeful that it's going to bring out what you really wish to bring out: the chaos, the sense of loss, all the everything that you have undergone. You don't have to actually be a mother. I mean, to feel uh, the burden. You know what it means to be a mother. In fact, if you look at it, the very process of creating a performance, of bringing it up from scratch, thinking about it, that is also a birthing process. And just think of it like, if how Yasoda would feel if Krishna goes away, how you would feel if something you have created goes away from you and you're no longer able to see it. So that could be something like that. So, Babina, coming to the current situation at the moment when the world is facing this crisis, this pandemic of the COVID-19, when we are no longer able to go out as freely as we want to, when we are no longer able to mix with each other as freely as we used to, how is it affecting you, your work as a dancer, your experiences with your colleagues? Like, how is it affecting you?
Um, Actually, Embodied was performed when the cases were slowly like coming in Delhi in the beginning of March. But we somehow luckily finished the festivals. We came back, and I came back to Manipur luckily before the lockdown started in Manipur, and also like um, I came back to Manipur. But I think 1 2 months, I think all of us were trying to navigate our way through the uncertainties that we were like, suddenly facing. But after some time, my dance teacher here, Oja Musana, she wanted to continue some practice. So we did, and the practice was done only when we had certain programs that we have to give or perform. So um, that was a time when many online dance classes were starting by many dance practitioners. There was one Manipuri dancer, Sudeep Ghosh, who is not from Manipur, who started like the online dance lecture there. My dance teacher did, so I started going for that, and I think after that, many dance classes started online, and many dance festivals also started. So there was one organized by East Zone Cultural Center, EZCC, and under the Art and Culture Department of Manipur. So many of my friends in our cultural dance group here in Imphal, we all did and recorded our videos and sent for the performance. But what's interesting is we have should I say this? But we still have not. Any of us have not received like the payment that we were supposed to. And why I'm sharing this is because many of my like dancers that I know, they were more eager to perform and they do not think about the performance fee that we get. And and like some of them also, like, you know, they borrow money because we had to hire or like borrow the costume, and we know that the costume of Manipuri dance, it costs a lot. So they borrow money from somebody and say that, you know, the dance money is going to come, so then I'll repay you. So many dancers are facing so many problems regarding that. uh, and I think that the the starting of online dance festivals and dance classes are very important and also very useful, but somehow I feel that many dancers are getting exploited because of this.
Yeah. Thank you so much for joining us today, Babina. And
Thank you.
thank you for sharing a lot about what you're doing, your passion for dance, and how it inspires you. It has been inspiring you, and how you are trying to go forward from here. That has been very helpful to to all of us to listen to, and you threw a lot of insights which would be of interest not just for us but also for a lot of people out there, for a lot of young researchers, a lot of young people who wants to know more about what dance says there, what a lot of things about dance from Manipur, and also how you are combining your passion for dance and your passion for research and coming up with a unique methodology called such as dance ethnography. Thank you so much, and thank you so much for joining us, Babina.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you.
Numidang vai gi ne ma tâm de a ô numi nơ sinh ya nơ thang ba da sinh gi mây na tâm gia thiên ha ha ô tăng gi mây ne bu khong mây nem sinh gi da pa me na na phung vi ô tăng gi pa me nơ ning thi bi Babina manje ba mu be a thăng lên manje nơ lôi yum ba sinh naga cô lôi miệng lên nung chi be ô bồi cây đa ô lâm đăng cây đề bố na đầy bà na cha nô ôi bi đề ai hàng nê man dây khôn gul ô thăng lên mà đời khôn gul đi được bà phăng lực ta đi đi ibung o singunaga koloi na pao o singunaga koloi na pao ta pi u da aha Singunaga thang dinh na côi đi lại ô khối naga thang dinh na ninh thâu ba Singunaga nang gi nei na sai côi 오 고용나가 남기나 나름당 이샤비나 만자 빠무바 하하 오 텅리는 그 만자 날로용바 만제의 까이도 당릴 까이도 펌불레이바라네 항리버니 멍원다 마기니 봐도 로티바 고 아득이 뭐 마징라 아니 아하 lâm liên ga lâm đông đi đi lâm nung chi ô nông po na ga chính khi nữ bang bờ ta sa bi na man giờ ni bu lối bê à ô nông po na ga những thâu nữ lại những thâu 만전의 공을 내리르베 아 오펑억들의 니로용바 만제의 bao thắng lễ của lùi mở bao tâm bi